So that's the pulp from our two drinks this morning. I had the orange bell pepper with my kale. And James just had the kale. Um, but I guess you can't really tell how much that is. That's a fair amount of pulp. Now, I'm just going to cover that up. And it's just a normal sized glass of kale juice. And James has some ginger in his. I had some in mine too. Um, but I just wanted to show just how much pulp you get in with the drinks and what I'm going to do with it. So this is my bowl that I use for making my kimchi, and I also use it for making my burgers. So now this book here, it's not a great book, but it's okay, and I will be making making a recipe from page 173 from it called Pav Bhaji. I don't know how to pronounce that. Burgers with spicy mango chutney, and the mango chutney recipe here is really yum. But I won't be making the burgers exactly the same. I will be using the spices from the mango chutney in with the burger mix, and I will be using this pulp. I won't be using carrots as in here, and I won't be using breadcrumbs. I'll show you what I will be doing later on. Well, or what I've done, because we'll be eating that for lunch. It's going to be good. So, because when you're, or at least for me, when it's kale season, right now, we go through a lot of kale juice, because kale really, it's top notch in terms of health. So if you're going to have a green drink, you really can't beat kale. And it tastes terrible, but
it's bottom notch when it comes to taste. Yeah. So here goes everything. Yep.
But yeah, I already had my omega-3 with my green juice, and James is having omega-3 and probiotic because he didn't have the bell pepper in his juice like I did, because he's having the red pointed long sweet peppers, whatever, with in his omelet. So, and he has some leftovers from last night. He does not like green beans very much.
I like them, but it's just I don't like eating a lot of them quickly. Whatever, I'm not sure what it is, but
he doesn't like them very much. You don't eat very much of them.
Yeah, I don't like them. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. I don't hate them.
No.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about this movie, A Little Battle Angel, which I guess
A Little Battle
Angel
if
you're tired. And the computer animation's very good. The character Alita and her cyborg arms and legs and body and whatever, she fits right in with the human actors, and the environment is also obviously altered with computer animation, and it fits right in too. So it all really works quite smoothly. Now, they've had to work with the coloring of the movie to make everything seem more natural, and I don't care for that. I'm impressed, but I look forward to the future where the color can be more natural and varied, and still it all looks like it fits in. Anyway, like when movies make things, horror movie, 70s horror movies, everything was so dark you couldn't see anything. So, I mean, really, that's horror movies improved once the special effects could become better, and they didn't have to hide it with darkness and whatever, right? So same sort of thing here. And the movie was 2 hours long, and it feels longer. I fell asleep And even when I woke up and I started it where I'd left off, it still felt long, even
Wow.
just watching the last bit of it. Did you manage to stay awake through the whole thing last
Well,
night?
even good movies I fall asleep in, so
So
I actually didn't see much of it, but
you
it was
didn't?
impressive.
Well, I'll
The-
hold it back if you want. Like, we don't have to return it until Tuesday, tomorrow, I suppose, right? Because
Okay.
it's a long weekend.
There you go. See?
So, anyway, I think they should have edited more, but I wrote down they were too giddy to see their own artistic details, that they lost sight in the big picture, the movie. So, but I don't know,
That
maybe,
happens a lot with
yeah, with the
breakthrough kind of CGI.
when you have a lot of high-tech sort of imagery or whatever, then I understand. You've really made some advancements, and you are reluctant not to show them off, even to yourself. You're like, oh, this is so good. I've worked so hard, and we really accomplished something. And then it takes away from the movie, actually. And in years to come, like right now, people might be watching this whole movie and going, wow, this is awesome. You know, just like if you think about The Lord of the Rings. People were watching that, and at the time it was huge. And I suppose when you're making a movie and you're relying on box office sales to make your money off the movie, then really the art loses. It's the money rules, the whole business end of it is what ends up winning, and the art, the longevity doesn't. So things like Star Wars, you see them now, and I mean, some people, there's some sort of ridiculous nostalgic
It's
love for it, or
campy
whatever.
nostalgic,
Yeah.
you know, and it's okay. It might seem
Sure, but
ridiculous.
it
It's
does-
just like
it
Star
is
Trek is.
ridiculous. It's because Star Trek was more impressive, because especially the early stuff where they were using a toy spaceship for the scenes. That was awesome. And I mean, say Doctor Who stuff, the early stuff, you're really having to work with your imagination and that is what hangs on. That's the stuff that when people people are more likely to watch old Doctor Who in 50 years than they are to watch Star Wars.
There's no doubt about that.
and
Well,
you
even
can't
nowadays,
see that.
people
Yeah.
watch Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. I just thought you were saying all campy stuff. It's ridiculous.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that at the time, Star Wars, they put a huge amount of money into making it. It was a lot with costumes, with whatever, and who cares now? Really, who cares? There wasn't enough meat to that movie to make it really worthwhile in the long term. And so there's some people hanging on that, like my ex, who was really into Star Wars.
Was he?
He was.
I
And-
kind of like
and
him
Kathy's
a whole
ex.
lot better. No,
Oh, well, he was really into Star Trek and stuff. He was very
and
big
Kathy's
sci-fi.
ex too.
Yeah.
I kind of like him a whole lot better.
And so there's a lot of people that are really into that stuff, and
Yeah.
we were raised on, I mean, my generation, getting, imagining a world where we're going to make it out to the stars, and exploration, and robots, and this and that, and people were so excited about it. There's a lot of that that's coming to life. There's over the years, it's becoming more and more real. But at the same time, the art that maybe inspired that, it's not worth watching today. It's not art, it's just, it was basically commercialization. When you have the business end of it wins out, then the art experience loses out, and I'm sure this, I haven't looked into the box office sales for this, but I was impressed with the technology. Were you not?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I'm impressed with it, I'm sure the young people are too. And if box office sales is what drives movie making, then this should have been very successful. So if it wasn't, then that tells us something about the future of movies too, and that's not a bad thing. Like when James and I would talk about music and how the people in charge of the whole music, what do you call it?
Industry.
I guess. There was big concern anyway about the fate of music, right? But really it was the fate of the music industry, and it was a few people that made a lot of money off of exploiting art and artists like that were about to lose out. And the art doesn't die. The people keep making music, and if anything, the art end of it will be better once the business end of it dies out. So once people are not exploited by other people to make money off of their art, the artists will still make their art because they can't not, honestly. Real artists, they're driven to make their art. They have to do it. So if there's not somebody exploiting them, they're not going to lose out in the long term. They're really not. You know, the people who lose out are the people who really aren't artists in the first place. They shouldn't be in that industry. Maybe they're very pretty and they have some nice dance moves or something, but does that mean we should listen to their music? Like it's really kind of messed up, right? So sure, video might have killed the radio star briefly, but anyway. And I wanted to talk about music a little bit. I brought this book back out because there were some things that we missed mentioning. You'll notice the dominant in this. His arms are crossed. Now, what does that say about communication? If my arms are crossed like this and I'm talking to you, and I'm holding a dominant position, my legs are out, so I'm holding a dominant position. You can see his legs are out, and he is taking up a good amount of space to show his dominance, right? And his arms are closed like this. He's not open to communication. He is not going to receive anything you try to put his way. He's closed.
He's there to order you.
Yeah.
And the feet out like that, they have set it up fairly well. See, this is the slave servant type. They are, they've kind of got their arms crossed, but not nearly as emphatically.
No, it would be like this.
They're not taking, something like that. No. But they're not taking up any space, right? Whereas Idiot here is taking up maximum space.
I mean, her arms are only closed because she wants to take up less space. And she doesn't want to seem... Yeah, she doesn't want to seem...
Well, she's also protecting herself.
Yes. And this woman, the yellow woman, actually should have her arms, woo! You know?
Party girl.
Yeah. She's,
and
like James said, she's
there's
a cheerleader.
As many, maybe more guys that are that way.
Sure.
So I don't want to say they're all party gals.
Here you can see they're women.
It could be a party guy. What
to.
They're doing is they're stereotyping people. But
yeah.
The one person that we thought of right away was a party guy. We're not going to say who he was or whatever. Remember when we ran across that thing?
Of course. But I could say George Bush Jr. as the yellow.
Exactly right. He was a cheerleader.
He was a cheerleader.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
A lot of people in music are that way.
Sure.
Some people in art, you know, the ones that are promoting themselves all the time.
But if you think about it, with technology being amazing now, and really, there's been a push to promote the importance of leadership for a while, and leaders. And if you think about it, more dominants are being raised today. More people are being raised to be dominant. And
I think you're right.
it's obvious. And what do you do with all these people? Because, I mean, it used to be you could send them off to battle. But now, the battles are being fought with computers, who are being designed by the blue people over there. The Blue Man Group. So, what use do you have for the leaders? What do you do with them? You can't send them off to battle anymore.
Well,
So then you end up putting them,
put them
in
into
business and
Well,
sports. And
there's this tie-in with business and sports. It's always been. It's the city of Lethbridge is this way.
and you promote sports, you promote especially players, individual players
Yeah.
who show leadership qualities, or you pump it that way. You really
call
promote
leadership
that.
qualities.
Yeah.
So you got this idiot LeBron James. He's going around saying, "I am the leader," and
and he's
he
shown
usually
off,
leads
right?
his team to defeat. It's hilarious, you know.
So, and with music, the music industry, you really promote leaders of groups. When I was young, there really wasn't a need for leaders at that point, even. Not these types of people, the dominants. But still, that was being promoted, and it's even more so today. And there is less need for leaders, that type of leader, dominance today. Now, if you think about it, music groups. James he talks about this a lot with me. The music groups that he admires most, they were actual group teams. They really worked hard as teams to.
The Beatles, I think, used to vote on what they do.
And when they fell apart, it was because the teamwork they weren't working as a team. Somebody had come in, a dominant, to influence one of the team members to make him think he was a dominant, to make him think that he should be the leader of the group.
We're talking about Yoko Ono, but
Well, it's obvious. So, and then the team suffered, and we all suffered because of that. And name some of your favorite bands. Just get
well, I
them.
like the Jefferson Airplane. And what happened was the real talent in the group was Marty. I've heard Bala, but it's pronounced Balin. But I think that was the way of getting around the censors. Marty Bala and stuff like that. But he was kind of just closed out of the group by Grace Slick. And I'm talking about the writing talent.
Sure.
And
And she was definitely a dominant.
that
Very
was about it,
much.
Yeah. And the other
So what
guy,
ruined the group? The dominant.
And so she had a relationship with Paul Kantner, who was the least talented of the three singers, right? He'd always sing a little bit flat. It's amazing they got
And-
harmonies out of it. Marty Balin had a nice kind of weak voice. Grace Slick had a really
Lately, you've
powerful
been
voice.
reading a book about a certain woman from a certain group.
Oh, Stevie Nicks.
Okay, so who's
I never.
who's the dominant in the group?
Well, she is. And
Yes.
the funny thing.
And who ruined the group?
Who? She did.
She did.
Who's the analytic person in the group? It's Lindsay Buckingham. Yeah, maybe he's not the nicest guy in relationships. I'm not sure. I hear stories from an ex of his. He's managed to hold on to a marriage for 20 years and has a couple of kids. But the person who ruined the group was Stevie Nicks. I'm not sure.
And
what
she
all
could
the
have been
problems were.
replaced by another woman who was pretty,
Yeah.
with an interesting voice, and
kind
it
of
wouldn't have mattered.
do pirouettes.
But you
and
get
stuff.
rid of Lindsey Buckingham, what happens to the group?
No. So here's the deal. Like Stevie Nicks kind of stalked Tom Petty for decades. I'm not kidding you. And when she first started stalking Tom Petty, he was saying to his group, kind of like, who is she? What's her scene? I think he would have known who she is, but what's her scene? He was kind of freaked out. I could have been freaked out. And eventually, this was like decades later, he said, she always wanted to work with me. I never could write with her. He would write with Mike Campbell and stuff like that, but he said, Lindsey Buckingham, I could never do the job he did writing with her. She didn't understand. Like Lindsey Buckingham could take, like what she would write is like Pablum. It was like, and he'd give it kind of like structure. He even like did it with a person who's a much better writer than Stevie Nicks. Christine Perfect or Christine McVie. That's amazing. That's her maiden name, Christine Perfect.
Boy, just
Perfect.
keep that one.
I would have kept it, but she married John McVie.
But then I have a good last name, and why didn't I? We should have swapped. When we were getting married, James was like, I should take your name.
You see, like,
it was
the
a
whole
good last
thing is
name.
I don't impose my name on anyone. So, yeah, I was saying the name's better, but my name's pretty good.
It is.
It means mouth. And sometimes it behaves that way. But, yeah, it's, Tom Petty realized it. I was going to say about Christine Perfect. One time, she got annoyed at Buckingham and was saying, you didn't get any hits. He didn't get as many, but he wasn't aiming for them. He tried to be artistic. His big inspiration was Brian Wilson. And the amazing thing is, he's underappreciated by the fans, by the group especially, the same way that Brian Wilson was. Mm-hmm. Pet Sounds, the all-time #1 Beatle or Beach Boys artistic triumph. The rest of the Beach Boys hated. The fans didn't like it that much. It wasn't a big seller or anything.
Yeah,
like that.
But now that's the one that people are going to listen to.
Yep.
And the art, if artists are allowed to produce their art, it has longevity. If other people control how they produce their art, it doesn't. And not only the group suffers that is involved with the artistic project, but all of society does, because it all spreads out from there. And what else was I going to say about that? Oh,
and I've got to congratulate you on picking out Stevie Nicks. I hadn't been thinking about it in those terms.
It's all
she's
about dominance and submission. It's all about that. It has always been about that. It's easy for somebody who has been through that relationship personally, like a very extreme dominance and submission relationship, to see it's everywhere. That's what it's all about. And it's you have to be, I think, the submissive in the relationship to see it and get out of it. And I don't know if there's any way to do it otherwise. But maybe there is. Maybe the dominants see it. I don't know.
There are many different types of domination. Like Yoko Ono was shy and retired, but like she dominated John Lennon. So she was kind of like a replacement mother for him or something like that. There are other dynamics involved, and it wasn't, like someone found it creepy that he always called her mother. They had a kid and stuff like that. But I think there was that dynamic. She was older than him, and marriages like that aren't, I hope people don't find our marriage creepy and stuff like that. And
no, well, it bothered my sister at first.
Like the Demi Moore, Ashton Kutcher thing. I think some people found that creepy. I didn't.
No, I don't.
How much older was Demi Moore?
I don't know, but like my
10 years.
sister, when James and I were first together, I think she was more responding to what her significant other was thinking at the time.
Oh.
That's my guess.
Okay.
But she didn't, she thought it was strange that I started dating James.
Well,
'Cause
it
he
is
was
strange.
the
I'm
same
21
age as
years
my
older than Paul.
dad.
So
And
that's perfectly
then my sister ended up with somebody even older than James.
and she's younger than
And she's younger than me. So eventually she saw that our relationship was very healthy and something that she wanted for herself, I think. Something that she wanted rather than what she had.
that having been
And
said, I wouldn't
she
recommend it
did
for
not
everyone.
End up with, she didn't see that it wasn't exactly age, and not entirely that. I mean, there's something about my generation. I don't know if I could find a man in my generation that I would be perfectly suitable for. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know if I want to chance it again. Anyway, what I was going to say about the music industry too is if you look at who the music industry, who the record labels were promoting, they were promoting not bands, they were promoting leaders. So you can name off a whole bunch. There were some that were boy bands that that's more of a kid thing. I don't know. I can't really explain the boy band thing. I don't know what to do with that.
Well, I've got a few theories, but I mean the Beatles
Well,
were
I
the
have a
ones
few
that really,
theories, too.
really started the formula. And
Yeah,
one
but
of
it's different. The way the boy bands went, like when you think about the boy bands in my generation, there was Backstreet Boys. My sister listened to them. Or no, not Backstreet Boys. What was it? The Kids in the
Kids
Block.
in the Block.
That was it. And my sister listened to them. She didn't listen to Backstreet Boys. She's not that much younger than me.
Yeah.
But yeah, then there was the Backstreet Boys and stuff like that.
You never got into the Backstreet Boys.
What?
I'm just kidding.
No.
No, like
No.
already in the 80s.
Although
you were
maybe they
listening
wanted
to...
a mother figure. And yeah, I took the whole team on. No, that's just a rumor. It's not true at all. Don't believe it.
Oh yeah, I'm just thinking you would have been like 14 or 15 by that point in time.
With the New Kids in the
Yeah.
Block or whatever.
Yeah. That was
yeah,
around 1990, right?
I was not into
but
that.
you were already listening to The Cure, weren't you, at that point in
Yeah.
time? So, wow.
My sister, it was a very different person from me. She was naturally very submissive. My Christian father was very pleased with how my sister was, and he didn't need to work with her very much because she was already perfect. So she was a very different person from me. But she's a wonderful person. She's very gentle and kind, and I wish that she was in a very safe world where she could be protected.
Yeah, she's my sister-in-law, but I consider her a sister. And that's good. But yeah, the boy bands, it's like there's kind of like like there's a concert and it's just really, really exciting. And let's say there's 4, as there were in the Beatles. You got your choice, and you like. Well, in the Beatles there's 4, but